But when I go to my village and I have a dance studio and it's with a girl and a boy, with me and a girl, that means we're having a dance party.
Have a dance party. Can you dance pretty good, Cameron?
Yeah.
You can throw down, huh? What's your favorite type of dance?
The Michael Jackson one.
Oh, yes.
I can sing along with Michael Jackson.
What's your favorite song?
Beat It.
Beat it. I'm gonna give you the music while you dance, okay?
I'm gonna take it off.
Oh yes, you just put a little of this on you. You're a free man. All right, let me give you the music. Dun 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 beat it beat it dun 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 dun. I don't know, he got you, Mark. I think he got you, man. All right, what we doing today, my man?
This what it means to be a man is to give. Always give back. Charge that $5.99
Hop in, baby. So right now we're headed to the pediatrician for Sky's 4-month appointment. But we're always a little bit late and they don't play. So Juliet and I go to all the appointments. It's nice. It just, we get to see them grow up together, and we bring Harper. When I was in high school, I had a very close friend tell me that her stepfather would come into her bedroom at night and fondle her. You know, put his hands inside her nightgown, her panties, and touch her vagina. I was shocked, and I was so upset by it. Then it seemed like every other woman that I knew had some version.
I am a social worker and a yoga teacher, and I came to yoga after I experienced sexual assault. In the first yoga class that I went to, I was extremely uncomfortable and did not want to be in my body. I moved here in 1996 to go to social work school, and in October of my first semester of that program, I was sexually assaulted by someone that I met and went on one date with, and went back to his apartment, and he assaulted me. I think that the sexual assault impacted me in so many ways, and it still does. It's been a long time. Immediately after, I feel like I was lost. I had some friends around me to support me, and some were women and some were men. And I've had some African American men be supportive to me throughout and listen and remind me that not all men are perpetrators. Not all men will assault us or harm us. And that's probably been the most important thing, the listening part of it, and this reminder that there are good men out there.
work of fiction. They say it's a pack of lies. Yeah, that's why it's called fiction. You will hear me say in this class is... God, 15 years ago, when I was still a young assistant professor probably, teaching intro psych, I had a young white female come to me to try and explain to me why she had been missing class. I was like, what's going on? And her demeanor was not good. And finally she said, I was raped. And I leaned forward and said, what did you say? She said, I was raped and I'm having a hard time. And so I had a long conversation with her and I made a deal with her. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I said, okay, I know this is traumatic. One, the deal is you've got to go to counseling. But two, you have got to promise me you're going to be in class, and at the end of every class for the next month, you don't have to stop and talk to me, but when you leave the class, it's a huge classroom, 200 students. When you leave the class, make sure you make eye contact with me as you walk out. That was an awakening moment for me, having to deal with this young woman and what she was going through.
I think a really important part of me sharing my story is breaking the silence that has been created by our culture around rape and sexual assault. And I think me being able to share my story is really important for me, and I hope it's important for other people to be able to find their voices too and find confidence in sharing their stories.
Good? You want to go?
So we were just all drinking one night. One of the guys there, who I didn't know very well but lived in the house, had started making comments at me or about me, and started making advances, just like little things like trying to flirt is how I took it at first. And so I just kind of brushed it off as that. And I was on like my second beer, and I just started to feel very sick. And I just started to get a little concerned. I was still just very aware of this one individual. He just kept staring at me and just was really starting to make me uncomfortable. I just was going in and out of consciousness a little bit, and I just remember thinking, I'm just not safe. And I was on a couch right across from one of the other guy's rooms, and he had gone in and shut his door. And I remember thinking, I just need to get up and go into, my friend's room and just ask him if I can sleep on his floor for the night, because I just don't feel safe out here. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't get up. And I started passing out, and I'd come to for a couple minutes. And at one point, the man who had kind of made advances at me and was kind of creeping me out a little bit came and picked me up off the couch. And I remember saying, I really just want to stay on the couch. I just really want to stay on the couch. And he was like, no, you'll be more comfortable in my room. And so he took me back to his room and undressed me and raped me. I just remember waking up the next morning and just not understanding what had happened. I just remember him waking up and saying, well, that was a good fuck. And I just left.
There's something different from a drunken hookup and an intentional rape. I've seen, a lot of men remain quiet when we go into, these topics, or a lot of men ask questions, especially those relating to alcohol and, rape. I remember specifically one of the questions that came up was, well, if they're both drinking, then how is it rape? Just getting men to understand that, alcohol is a tool and, it's the person that does it.
All people have to start changing their thinking as it relates to that, because it doesn't matter, what you were drinking. It doesn't matter what you were wearing, where you were, or who you're with. No one has the right to impose their will on you sexually, to rape you under any circumstances.
So I think the importance of men being in this work, for me, is pretty simple. Men and women live on this earth and we coexist. And I don't think that we can change or shift anything in our society without both men and women. And most Black males are in some institution and engaged in it some way. And I think by saying, yes, African American men and boys have power, now that you have this power, let's talk about how to harness that power for good.
I didn't really get active until I took the position that I'm in now. I was aware of it and saw it, but I think like most of society, didn't appreciate how prevalent it was, how serious it was, sort of felt like it was none of my business. And I think people don't get involved in the conversation because they feel like that involves something that's intimate between two people. Even though it's violent and it's not consenting and all the things that normally happen, I think there's this fear for people to get involved.
Well, the conversation between my family, it ended up being over the phone dinner conversation. They were eating dinner, and I was telling them how I wanted to do work with interpersonal violence. My mom's first comment was, "Were you raped?" So I'm like, no, but that's not the important thing. And I was explaining to her how, you don't have to be raped to, stand up for what's wrong. My friend had texted me. She didn't quite know what to do or who to come to, and we were, always really good friends. We talked about, her experience with what ended up being sexual assault. Basically, I was just that support person, reassuring her that it wasn't her fault and connecting her with resources on campus. What I could do at that point was very limited, but at the same time, I felt amazing by being there to listen and being there to direct her to different resources.
Once a man has some awareness and understanding of the factors around rape and sexual assault and how to be helpful to a woman who's had that experience, that can really facilitate helping the woman be able to trust men again.
Most of the time, if men were involved, it was because they were supporting a survivor or the person that was important in their lives who were a part of this work, but they were not in the work, so to speak.
I was in a restaurant having dinner, and I looked up and there she was. And so she's speaking to me. She gets up to come over and talk to me, and her father gets up and comes over. And the man, still today it hits me. The man came up to me and he started crying. And he just hugged me and said, "Thank you."
A lot of times that's all you're exposed to. You have a different view. So, where do you start? Where do you start with a young man that has almost no respect for a woman? Where do you go from there?
Well, Troy, it all starts at home first.
All starts at home.
It all starts at home. But if you skip the home, the foundation, it's almost impossible to catch it midway unless the church is involved.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If not, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
American men absolutely have power in the Black church. They are generally the head of the church, whether it's the preacher, pastor, or the deacons. However, if you look at the makeup of a Black church, it's primarily Black women. I think that is the perfect little incubator to figure out how we use men's power to end violence against women.
There's a word that springs forth from Psalms 118, 13, and 14, and I'm reading from the New. There has to be a way in which the church plays a role in helping and assisting survivors. And whatever the issues are that are around this altar, that you move in a mighty way, and you restore. Everybody out there shouting on Sunday mornings isn't shouting because they're happy. Some people are shouting because they're being abused at home. They don't know what move to make. They don't know how to get out of whatever they find themselves in. The thing about the church is the head of the church at that particular local church has to be the one that addresses it. It has to come from the top down, because once the congregants see that that pastor is dealing with it, then the congregants say, hey, that's something that we want to do as well. We don't want to take over the role of trying to educate as men, everybody. We want to work in conjunction with women. Mm-hmm. One of my congregants came forward and shared, and it was a male. I think very often we overlook that sexual violence happens to males.
So it happened when I was a freshman in high school. It was all my friends were talking about, oh, they were having sex, this, that, whatever. And I was just like, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. But then everyone kept saying, oh, you're not having sex. Some bullshit. But I ended up actually talking to the senior, and I ended up skipping class, and he ended up coming over, and I thought it was something I wanted. So we were in my parents' bedroom, and then I had just decided it wasn't something that I wanted, and I told him I didn't want to, and he just forced himself on me anyway. And then he basically just said, just shut up and take it, and did whatever. And then he got off me, threw the condom somewhere in the hall, I think it was in my trash can, and just left. I didn't tell anybody what had happened until I was a freshman in college. I was so stressed, and then I was dealing with that, and things had gotten so high, I ended up going to the hospital because I had attempted suicide. And then it was just a whirlwind freshman year. I think the first thing that should happen if you're going to educate young people to talk about violence is just to explain that just because you see it on TV, it's not okay, and that it's okay to talk about it. Like, don't just watch and not say anything and be a fly on the wall. Like, actually speak up if you see something wrong going on, or if you think things should change.
You don't have to go tit for tat. Whenever there are jokes about someone's sexuality, or there are jokes calling someone the B word, and a group of men are around and we're laughing, we need to be leaders and say, no, I don't think that's funny.
Jokes about women are not jokes. They are slurs, and they are demeaning. How you talk about women influences how you interact with women. So it's not funny, it's not a joke, it's demeaning, and it's dangerous.
A couple of my friends have done it. They'll call girls out of their names. They'll call them B's and all the other names. They just do it to be funny, but sometimes it does get a little bit out of hand.
You see it you can see it sometimes, almost every day. Like, you hear about it. Like, you hear how boys talk about girls. You be like, oh, look at her butt, look at that. Oh, dang, that's big. But, that's not really respectful.
if you actually think about it. I don't think people would like you late, just walking up to you, talking about, oh, how big your body is. Because, I mean, like, for me, I wouldn't like that.
That I'm not conditioned that to be playing running back.
I feel the urge that I should be like, oh, don't do that. How would you feel if someone did that to you? But I'm like, I never have enough, like, stuff to say it.
Often what I witness is that when there's sexism happening, and we should just assume it's happening because it happens all the time, that there's this discomfort with intervening or stepping up and saying something about what's going on or what's inappropriate or unacceptable. My hope is that men would move through that discomfort and support other men and being more supportive of women.
All my day was cursed with no one to
If you're at school and you witness something like that, you just feel that your voice isn't the voice that needs to be heard, like someone with more power, like a teacher or someone. But like you really are. Everybody has the authority to step in and say something like that.
It's okay to intervene, that he's still a man by intervening. You know what I mean? That his manhood is not totally walked because he challenged another boy on his behavior. That he's not defined as something other than who he sees himself as because he chose to challenge a behavior.
And when you hear remarks about females, not only in sports, but just, in class, obviously in the locker rooms, I mean, some things are said about females derogatorily. And I mean, it kind of rubs you the wrong way. It's all about, being able to stand up and, say, hey, man, that's not right. And having the ability and the confidence, the boldness to say, hey, even though everyone's going along with the flow, being different, being able to stand out and say, hey, man, come on, man, don't talk about it like that, man. You shouldn't do it like that, man.
States of America. The truth of the matter is, this many that perpetrate violence against women, 15% or so. And then there's all the rest of us who don't. All right? How is it that this many men do what they do to women in the presence of all of us good men? How is that? That men's violence against women, be it domestic or sexual violence, is really rooted in the patriarchy. Is really rooted in male domination, in the culture of manhood, how we're socialized as men to collectively have less value in women, view women as the property of men, view women as objects, particularly sexual objects. That in itself equals violence against women. So while most men don't perpetrate violence against women, we're all a part of the culture that's required for the violence to be.
And all these things kind of contribute to trivializing the existence of women and reinforcing the culture of rape that kind of makes sexual assault and rape permissible. And so when someone finally has the courage to come forward to say, I've been raped, I've been sexually assaulted, they are treated with suspicion because everyone's been trained to not take what the woman is saying seriously.
And honestly, I was looking for validation from them. Because I didn't know, if they had given me feedback that, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, you were drunk, I probably would have accepted that and said, they're right. That was, I wasn't raped. But fortunately, I had really good friends, is really what it came down to. And I know that if it hadn't been for them to push me to go get help afterward, I don't know if if I ever would have gotten it. I know my life would be drastically different. Just that simple act of them, giving me a hug and loving me and saying that they believed me was just so important.
Good girl, that was awesome. It's amazing what a great environment can do for a horse.
They heard me out. They listened to what I had to say. They just supported me in going to counseling and getting better. And they said if I ever needed to talk, I could just call them. And they made themselves available to me.
And also understanding that healing isn't linear and it takes a long time and there are setbacks. I feel like it's just really important for men to take direction from the survivor about what they need, because what the man might want to do in response to knowing that someone they love has been assaulted may not be the most helpful thing.
It was so amazing to just be able to talk to a man about these issues and the response not be, well, let's just beat him up, or he doesn't deserve to be here then, and not looking at how we all, men or women, contribute to the culture when we don't stand up to sexist acts or sexist jokes or any acts of oppression or violence.
What's the world you envision for your daughters or your granddaughters? Because we have to make this thing personal with men.
Right.
Because part of that socialization has taught us to have a lack of interest in the experience of women in general. So we have to make it personal. So we ask men, envision the world you like to see for your daughters, your granddaughters, little girl that you love. How would you want to see men acting and behaving in that world? That question usually stops men in their tracks.
And they see it. They begin to say, wait, this makes sense.
Sometimes, you just lead by example. If they just see how you treat women, that might carry over in their lives as well.
I think a real man is someone that can speak up for what they believe in, just be true with who they are and do the right thing, even if it's not easy to do.
Our society would be much better if we looked at this in a very real manner and began to address it and not be scared of it.
Part of this is waking up to what we already know. Part of it is making space for survivors to name what's happening and for men to really own that they are sexist, then to figure out what they're gonna do about that.
And our goal is to create a larger society that embraces people and believes their story and helps them to heal, as opposed to re-traumatizing them again by not believing them.
The measure when it comes to sexual violence, to end it just one time for one person in one circumstance is worth all the effort.
You can't think that there's going to be a change if you won't help affect the change.
So it's a journey, it's a never-ending journey, it's a process. We don't arrive as men, Once you turn on that cultural lens of redefining manhood, there's not a step almost anywhere you go that you're not going to have messages, opportunities to engage with men, opportunities to challenge yourself. I love the journey.
Yeah, 8 Griffin. Oh, you be lost out there, man. Yeah, the trees and color. Shave you. I didn't even know ask you to do the job. But that's fine. Just keep a little camera.
Yeah. What it means to know black man.
Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you for viewing that. We will move into the discussion portion here now and hope that you'll participate in that. I do want to just add something I forgot earlier. April, as you're probably all aware, is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and this is one of 3 programs that we are producing this month on this topic. And so I wanted to put in a little plug for that. So also, just want to acknowledge I am a cis hetero white male. I am part of the demographic that almost assuredly has committed the most acts of sexual violence, at least in this country. And I don't have answers. I don't have solutions. I'm a learner, and so this next portion I am looking forward to learning. We have 3 gentlemen from the campus here. They are members of BSU and Men of Honor, but most importantly, they're student leaders. They're student leaders, and they are the people on this campus who influence others. And so I'm very proud to introduce Kenneth Bray, Viddy Johnson, and Clyde Jones. And I'm gonna let them take it over and lead the discussion. And I will say we have probably few enough people that we can just unmute and ask questions. If you are more comfortable sending a message to me directly in the chat, I can ask questions anonymously for you as well. But Kenneth, Viddy, and Clyde, take it away.
Well, hey, can y'all hear me, first of all? Okay, good. Appreciate y'all for coming to this event. It's very important that we normalize these kind of conversations, and especially among men, and just add good pieces of information and input so we can better protect our women or be better around our women, if that makes sense. And just again, thank you. But I was going to start off with some of these warm-up discussion questions. So the first one is, what is sexual violence and how prevalent is it?
Again, just feel free to unmute and answer directly if you're able to.
And if you want to turn your cameras on, you can do that too, because all day we're looking at pictures. So seeing a face and emotions would be nice too.
Well, hi everyone. This is David Ortiz, and I guess I'll jump in there to help jumpstart some of the conversation. There's that statistic that we often see cited that 1 out of every 5 women will be the victim of some form of sexual violence. Hits really close to home when I do the math. And I share with you that I have 5 daughters that range from 8 years old to 20 years old. And if you think about that statistic, if I think about it, the truest sense, the reality that one of my daughters will be a victim of sexual assault. So to me, that's an example of how prevalent it is. It's not going to statistically fall very far from my own family, you know, and most assuredly, there are people in my family already that have been the victim of it, but we don't know their story. So Viddy, when you ask how prevalent it is, 1 out of 5, that's the reported estimated number. You can almost be assured that it's way higher than that. So that to me is just a striking evidence of how prevalent it is.
And even to add to that, and I do agree to your point that it probably is more prevalent than that, and that, you know, reminds me of a theme that we discussed in criminal justice class was dark crime, and that would be the crime that's unreported. And so to be more vigilant when you are in those atmospheres, when we get back to normalcy, you know, at your parties or just local gatherings, be vigilant of those individuals, men, who are not paraded, but assuming the role of a predator. And I've seen it before. A guy like, hey, drink this, drink that. Hey, let's do this. And having those de-escalation tools, or 4Ds, as we learned last year. And I can't. They're more like not de-escalation tools, but they're almost like getting away tools, and stop.
Distract, defend.
Exactly. Hit those, distract, defend, decoy, stuff like that, and learning those tools to be able to, like, again, be better with our women. I like this question. How is masculinity related to sexual violence? I would like to answer this question. I'm sorry, because I like it a lot. But
I'll follow you, Biddy. When you're done, I'll follow you.
Of course. So there's toxic masculinity, which we hit on the nail a lot last semester when Leslie Flores was here. That was the earlier title, not Title IX, but offensive violence against women. She was ahead of that. But through that, we learned how toxic masculinity can, be a direct influence on how we treat our women. In Latin culture, correct me if I'm wrong, they call it machismo. That's what Leslie taught me. So, you know what I'm saying? But it's just that thing of like, I'm a man. This is what men are supposed to be. We don't cry. We don't show our feelings. Like they stated in the documentary, the women are our property, stuff like that. And that's how it could be a hindrance to how we treat and view our women in society by uptaking those roles of what a man should be, taking that toxic masculinity. And Clyde, you can go ahead.
Okay, so what I have to say about that is just I completely agree with like the toxic masculinity. But then even so with that, it's just like, I guess like different like people and like we look up to, like, for example, like with like some like of like the big name rappers like NBA Youngboy or whatever, like they like the way they portray how they treat women and stuff, like for like not people necessarily around my age, but like people younger than me, like kids who are easily influenced, like 14, 15, 13, around those ages, like they pick up on that and then they visualize that, oh, so that's how we're supposed to treat women. So then they go into the mindset whenever they go to a girl, they're gonna treat them the way that the rappers say they treat their women, or really anyone treats their women. And that's just like one home front, like things like that just like messes up the whole general idea of how us men should treat women. And like with like toxic masculinity, like it's just not okay now. And like they were saying like in the video, like it all starts with the home and the home front and the way the things we teach. Because like me growing up, like my mom told me, like, you always respect women, you never disrespect women. If you see someone disrespecting them, like you definitely speak up and say something about it. And like referring like to the last question and what like David was saying, like he has $5. Like I have a sister who's 13, so like she's getting to the age where she's gonna start liking boys and boys are gonna start liking her. So it's just like I would never want my sister to go through something like that. And it's just like, as men, like we have to take this younger generation up under us and we have to put them up on our wing and show them, nah, like this is not the way to go. Like the lies that these rappers are talking about, or these superstars or different people talking about, like how they treat their women, or how like they should treat women, like it's not the right way and it's not okay.
Were you gonna say something?
I was just, David, did you have something you wanted to say there? No, okay. I just wanted to ask what types of things do you think we can do to influence younger males into, I guess, mentor them into learning these types of behaviors, these supportive behaviors, these rejecting violence type behaviors. What types of things do you think we can do with the younger males?
Well,
my
bad.
Go ahead.
I feel like we could do more stuff like this. And then for the younger age, because if you get here, by the time you get here, it's too late already. it's already too late. That mentality is already set in your mind. But for younger age people, I feel like we should make topics like this a class, like an elective down in like middle schools. So that when kids start going through puberty, they can be taught right then and there, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, and this is what needs to be done, and how the right way to go about things. Or it could be taught like as a unit in like a health class, like a sex ed class or something.
And to add to that, what really popped up in my head is normalizing, making these kind of conversations, even in private, something that's not like seen as taboo. Like, because usually when you generally speak about, sex, what I'm saying, it comes with like an age requirement or limit. Like, we're not supposed to talk about these things right here in this moment in our life. It should be one of those things that is implemented in a way to where it is a comfortable conversation, especially like dealing with sexuality, stuff like that. Just under that umbrella, normalizing it, making it a comfortable conversation. This is something normal to talk about. This is something that's not abnormal. Because when you start getting to a place where you make it abnormal, it's almost like sheltering somebody from real life information. Like in reality, this is reality. These things happen. So treat it as that. Almost as normal as like, I wouldn't want to say compared to like a sporting event. But when we talk about sporting events, it's easy. It comes out. We talk about it freely. So why don't we talk about these such things among ourselves as something freely? Or so another point, call out your friends. Like, hey, you know what I'm saying? This is not what that's not it. Making it comfortable to be honest with your peers, even those that is not your peers, just being able and comfortable to come and step into that situation of correcting a obvious transgression. So, is anybody else going to speak on that or no? Okay, that's good. All right. So, I like this question too, because it says, what about the barbershop makes it a good place to discuss gender expectation and roles? It obviously is a setting of comfortability, familiarity. It's a safe space. It's almost like so me primarily speaking on personal experience. For me, barbershops, I never had that experience to where that kind of conversation about sexual violence was felicitated within the building or the shop. But having those disagreements and conversation on particular topics with the knowledge of you're not going to be criticized for your opinion. I understand that aspect of the barbershop. So what came to my mind when I read this question is how can we produce those spaces within our groups of friends, schools, even outside? How can we create that space or that energy of comfortability to create a place like the barbershop to have these discussions? And that just goes back to my point, primarily just being upfront about what it is and the nature of the conversation, and letting those people know that you will not be criticized or ostracized for being a good person. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think about the next question I would like to hit on, but if anybody wanted to add to that and how we could create those kind of spaces, feel free, please.
I know for sure when I was in high school, a safe space for for the athletes, like the locker room where you can not be judged. Like, it's all dudes up in there, so it's nothing crazy. And then like, I know, cause I was in theater, so the black box, that was another safe space for people in theater classes. So like, I feel like if we target those safe spaces where we're like a bunch of people gather together because that's where they feel comfortable and safe with each other, then that's where we can open the floor these type of discussions, talk, and to where okay, we can get the people from like in theater, all the men in theater, like we can put them in the black box safe space. Now we're all like, it's all calm, like everyone's comfortable and we're all just talking and like, I guess, sharing our thoughts on these things and getting a better understanding of what we each view. And then like, okay, well, more so like, this is the way to go about certain things like this. And like, these are things like you shouldn't do, you shouldn't want to do, and type stuff, and introducing like these questions and like having and like challenging, I guess, like us, like the students and stuff, like, okay, like I'm gonna need y'all like to take a step further, like, okay, now take this type of conversation to your, like where your safe space with your friend group is, or like a safe space for like your like family, like having these conversations with like your siblings and stuff, like just, I guess, attacking these safe spaces and then having them branch out and go into their other safe space besides the one they have like at the school and stuff.
You know, I think about this, and you know, I think about the safe spaces. Actually, it's a great way of looking at it, because it gives, especially men of color, it gives us a chance to admit and to talk about some of the stereotypes that we've either seen or have been portrayed as. You know, so we could call each other out on these perceived stereotypes, right? So we look at representing the Latinx male community, you know, to give me the chance to talk about the perception of Latin men as being these kind of, you know, these smooth operators, kind of silky, and you know, having a little bit of style about them, and or African American men talking about the perception of, you know, being an intimidating physique or a tough exterior, and for us to talk about them and to deconstruct them as being these false narratives, you know, because they really are, you know, but outside of our communities, those are the perceptions that we get. So giving us a chance to admit them and talk about how we can really right that misinformation, and then call each other out when we find that there are other people who feel the need to live up to that stereotype. You know, and I think that perpetrates a lot of some of the issues that we might face in our community. Because if we really want to keep it real, you know, we can talk about how it's internalized within our own communities of color for men, and having the chance to just be honest about it. Because we can all probably reflect on people within our community or our family who have been guilty of perpetrating it. And all it takes is one person to present that stereotype in a room of people, and then everyone starts to just believe that stereotype. You know, and that's been my experience. People see just one person acting out in that way, and it becomes easy for them to generalize it to our community, male communities of color.
And I don't know if my friend's on muted or not. I think, again, when it comes to the stereotypes that you're talking about, I think it's important to notice when you are in an environment and you are conforming to the stereotype, you know, because it can get easy to be like when you're around your peers, when you're in an environment of, you know, just around your friends, it could be easy to conform to that and be that what they think you already are. So I think it's very important to notice that and be mindful of that, because what you're saying is especially if you come from an environment where you were brought up to be that, and then you have an opportunity to see your faults. That's being mindful, and it's something you have to practice. Like, it's a constant practice within the individual to be mindful of, I'm practicing these behaviors that are not correct. And I think that it takes, like everything takes time, you know, and you have to be caught on that, be responsible, accountable for your own actions, not in like, so be accountable for what you're representing, and really practice that mindfulness, being aware of like, this is not who I'm supposed to be, or this is not, you know, a direct reflection of my people or what my people are thought out to be. So that's
let us not be guilty of engaging in a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Of who people think we're supposed to be. Right? That's the way I think it's exactly what you're saying.
Mitty, if I could jump in here, I'd kind of like to ask you know, those who identify as female on the call, you know, what types of things do y'all wish, or you know, how do you think we could, as males, support women and survivors? And you know, what's your wish list? What would you like to see us as males, you know, be able to do more of? If anyone's comfortable answering that question, if you know.
I would say like my main thing is like just listening and understanding. Because I've been in like groups of people where girls are talking about how like they feel uncomfortable when they're walking down the streets and a man is like, oh, you're so beautiful. Because for someone like me, like I'm 5'4". So if I'm by myself and I'm like walking down the street and someone is like, oh, you're so attractive, what I'm thinking is if they decided to put me in their trunk now and like drive away, like what would I do? And then in that situation, like a lot of men are just like, oh, just relax. Like you're being over dramatic. Like that means nothing. So then I think my main thing would be like just be understanding and just listening that, you know, we go through these daily, like that's our experience. Just cause it doesn't happen to you doesn't mean it's not true. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. You know, and I agree with the listening part, because I've experienced when, I've experienced when, other people don't listen to me when I'm talking about a situation that isn't important to me, but they don't see it, or they can't primarily they can't associate themselves with it or empathize with it. So they choose not to listen or not to identify that there is an actual problem. So everything you said would make complete sense to me.
Hi, just to jump in on what Priya was saying. When in her situation, she said, she's 5'4", and a man says, oh, you're very attractive. And she thinks immediately, oh my gosh, he might put me into his trunk and take me away. I think some men believe that telling a woman that he doesn't know, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're this, is a compliment, and it's flattery. And a lot of times it's completely uncalled for. I'm walking from one building to the next. I don't need to hear those kinds of comments. Keep it to yourself. And that's gonna make me feel safe, because you can look, but don't say anything. Just don't make those kinds of comments. And I think that that's what we need to do, is if somebody does say that, we need to stop that behavior and stop them from saying those things and making women feel uncomfortable. Even a look can make a woman feel uncomfortable. If a woman walks by a man and he turns around to see what she looks like from the back, we need to stop that kind of stuff. We need to make sure that a woman or a man feels safe no matter where they are.
And just to piggyback off the, like, I guess like the looking and stuff too, and like making like, I guess like women feel uncomfortable. Like I've like seen it happen like before, like with my eyes or whatever, and it would just be like, and it'll be like in different like open trivial places, like say like the gym, like men like quote unquote like working on the same area as one woman when they've been following her around the gym, or like just like different little things like that. Like they may like think like, oh, I'm just like checking around, like it's no big, I'm not doing nothing to her. But like in actuality, like you're actually like making them very uncomfortable and like making them fear for their, I guess, their safety, because like they don't know you and you're like following them around and like staring at them while they're working out and just minding their business, trying to do whatever they came to the gym to do. So I completely get like there's like something, those are just like little things that we need like to change and stop and to improve on in order to become better as men.
I'm curious if y'all could help some of us older folks in the room kind of understand how all this translates now in the world of like social media. how some of the descriptors we're talking about, the objectification or the stalking or the comments, talk a little bit about how that is prevalent and in social media and how we should be reacting to it.
I think that there should be more talk to young teenagers about what it means to have a stalker or what it means for there to be male or women predators, because I have seen a couple times where children, since media is new, they don't really understand what it means to be harassed on the internet. So sometimes they'll take it as someone being friendly. And I feel like even I was in situations like that where I look back at the messages from when I was in 6th grade or 7th, and there was older men who were about 20 talking to me, and in that time, I thought that it was normal, but it wasn't, and I feel like there needs to be more talk about that with young children and even adults who might not know about it.
And just like to go off of that too, like I'm like there's always like be like different talk or whatever, like whenever you're on like social media. Like I know like I was on TikTok earlier today, and like I was just looking at the comments or whatever, and I saw this one, like it was a video of like a woman and her child, and then some dude had the nerve to say, oh, they can both get it. Like that's like very really disturbing, inappropriate, and like just distasteful and disgusting. And it's just like people like see those things and be like, oh, that's funny, or oh, like that's like or he's just making a joke. But like in reality, like those things are not okay. And I feel like we like as like men, even like some women too, just like we brush those like things off and just be like, oh, like, oh, they're just saying that, or oh, it's just like social media, like they're gonna do that. But it's just like at the end of the day, like it's still not okay whether or not it's social media or not. And like there's not really I guess like crazy things we can do like to that to this person, because like if you don't know me, you can't do nothing, like it says nothing. But like we could definitely spread awareness and let the younger people know while like they're using these social medias, like you need to watch out for people that talk to you like this, or you need to like if someone says this to you, like you need to like stop that, or you need to make a comment like, no, like that's not cool, or no, like that's inappropriate, like I don't want to hear that.
I'm sorry. And like just to add, like I don't know if you guys have seen like that triangle of like abuse and stuff, how like it starts from like really normal things. So for me, like with both of my younger brothers, like if they like someone and she doesn't like them back, I'm like, that doesn't mean you should insult her. Like just because she doesn't like you back. Like that's rapey behavior. Because if she doesn't like you back, like that's her feelings. Like obviously sometimes you're like pretty relaxed. But for me, I'm like, that's basically a rapist. That's how rapist starts. Because you're not entitled to that person. Like just because they don't want you doesn't make them stupid, doesn't make them ugly, doesn't make them less attractive. So I feel like especially with men, like they need to tell their friends things like this. Like just because she doesn't want you doesn't mean like she's suddenly uglier, or she's suddenly this, or she's suddenly that. Like she just doesn't want you, and you need to move on to somebody that I guess wants you. So that's how I feel.
I think it's very important. Oh, my bad. Were you about to say something?
I can hold it I can hold it.
No, but what's my?
You got it. You got it.
Okay. No, I was gonna say I think it's very important to realize that social media in itself is an entity that has been transformed into a form of commodity as well, primarily based off of appearance. So, it's kind of like, teach your men, teach your boys or girls, don't be that person. Don't be that person to be like, well, she was doing this and that's why I do that. That's why, you should teach your boys to do that, but also be in mind that to your child, your boy and your daughter, that what you do post is going to be on the internet. It's going to be on there forever. Be mindful of what you post, because not everybody was raised to be like she's wearing this, but that doesn't mean I'm entitled to her body or his body. But you also have to have that conversation. If you are, you might have a good looking son or daughter, or you might be a good looking person yourself. You have to be mindful that people are watching all the time on social media. There is no, unless you put your stuff on private, but then people still find a way to get access to you. So you have to be mindful that social media is like no bars hold. It's like, what you put on there is what you put on there, and everybody's gonna be able to see that. And establishing that with the younger kids and even kids our age, what you post is, important, especially in this time right now, because people find ways to know where you are, like your location on Snapchat. They have the maps, like you can just have your general location. I turn that off because that's weird. That's so weird to me. I don't know why people keep that on. But you have your location on Snapchat. You can post your location on Instagram. Like, I'm eating that Lux bar today. People show up, you know what I mean? Or it's just, it's not fair. Social media is not fair, just like life. So you have to be mindful of what you put out there. And that's just the sad truth about it. That's just reality. Like, I wish you could just put something out there and everybody was just like, oh, that's nice. And that's what it was. That's just bottom line. Oh, that's nice. I'm not entitled to her or him. I'm not going to say this under the picture. I'm not going to DM this or that. But it's not. And you have to be very pragmatic about that. And I'm not big on social media either. So when I have kids, if they want to get on it, I'm gonna be like, hey, relax, don't do that. But not yet, at least. Let me show you. Let me give you they might already know more than me though, because the kids now be having iPads and all these types of gadgets at 12 years old. So, but yeah, that's all I have on that. Just be mindful of what you do put on there, boy or girl. But, you know what I mean.
I'll just add to that. I have a 7-year-old daughter who, when she was 2, could get on an iPad and order things off of the internet. So it's pretty amazing what they can do now. But I did get a private comment that I want to read, and it kind of touched a little bit on what Priya had mentioned as well. But the comment was, I prefer that women are not referred to in the possessive are women, or that compassion and empathy are only offered in relation to their value to a man. I think that we should move towards respecting women for the sake of respecting them, and not just respecting them because they, as a person, as in what they mean to us. And I thought, that's sort of the corollary to what you were saying, Priya, that of people disrespecting a woman because of, not wanting to deal with their own emotions or feelings about rejection. That's sort of I think the converse of that as well, right? But yeah, not just valuing women or labeling women in relation to almost as property. My woman, our women, right? So. And if you've not seen the, what's the documentary, it's not The Social Network, it's The Social something that's out on Netflix. Yeah.
The Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma. I immediately got off of all social media after that. So.
Same.
Well, I do want to just recognize we're at 8:12, and we did say we would end at 8 o'clock. So for anyone who needs to head on out, you're welcome to do so. If you'd like to stick around a few extra minutes and chat a little more, you're welcome to as well. But I don't want to hold anybody up. I do appreciate everybody attending tonight, and especially Clyde, Kenneth, and Viddy for leading the discussion here. Yes, I concur. Thank you very much, guys, for doing that, and thank you all for being here and participating. Hopefully we can continue these conversations and grow them and get more people involved here on campus. I'm encouraged by those who attended tonight, but realize there's still a lot of people out there who I would like to attend. I would like to engage with. So So thank you for being here tonight. If you need to head out, go ahead and head out. And if not, I'll be around for a few minutes. So thank you.
Thank you. This was fantastic. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.